Okay, here we have an example of black misplaying their position and drawing a game that they should have won. Now, if you look at this particular setup, you see that the black king is in front of their pawn. The pawn is on the 5th rank, and black's king is on the 6th rank. So this is usually a winning position for black in a king and pawn versus king ending. So black should have won this game, but black misplayed it. What black did is black first we'll see the mistake, and then we'll see the correct play. What black did is they pushed the pawn right away, g3 check. And why is this a mistake? Because now white can move into the corner, h1, and now white has the diagonal opposition against black, and here's the black cannot win, because if black pushes the pawn, then white moves into the queening square, and now it's going to be a draw. If black does anything else, it'll also be a draw, because if black, for example, moves into f2, then it's a stalemate because white has nowhere to move. If black moves back or moves into the e file, then white can move back to g2. So there's no way really that black can win in this particular at this point. At this point, it's a draw already. So the key here is that white has achieved direct diagonal opposition against black. So so this is always going to be a draw in this particular case where we're dealing with a knight pawn. Now, if this would have been let's say a bishop pawn, then black can then move into f2 and then escort this pawn into the queening square. But unfortunately for black, this is a knight pawn, and so therefore with a knight pawn, black cannot make this play right now. Black cannot move into f2. So at this point, black cannot win. It's a drawn game. So this is why we're going to go back to the original position, and now we realize why black made a mistake by pushing this pawn. Only because it's a knight pawn, that's why black cannot push the pawn just yet. What black needs to do is position himself in front of the pawn and make sure that white cannot force a stalemate. So how is black going to do this? Now let's see the correct play. What black does is black moves to f2. And now white is forced into the corner. Notice that white cannot go anywhere else. This is the only legal move for white, which doesn't really matter all that much because the key is going to be the next move. See, right now, again, white is forced into G1. No other legal move, and white actually has the opposition right now because it's black's turn to move. But unfortunately for white, it doesn't help white that they have the opposition. The opposition only helps white if black is not in front of their pawn. If black is in front of the pawn, then opposition doesn't do you any good. And this is also a classical example of where opposition does not help. In a king and pawn versus king ending, the only time opposition helps is if the king is not yet in front of their pawn. If the king of the superior party manages to position itself in front of the pawn, opposition does not help. Why not? Because look at this. Black moves into this h3, and now white's best move is to simply follow black and try to maintain the opposition. But it doesn't work. Why? Because black can utilize the tempo of pushing the pawn in order to regain the opposition. See, black pushes the pawn, and now white has just lost the opposition. So now at the next move, black pushes the pawn again, and now white is squeezed out of the winning square, and black comes in to the critical square of h2 to support the pawn on the next move, and now black wins the game. So so black could win this position here, but black needs to play properly. Again, the key to remember here is that black has a winning game because black is in the 6th rank in front of their pawn. So this is a winning game for black, but black needs to play properly because it's a knight pawn, and therefore pushing the pawn right away is incorrect, because now white can move into the corner and white can force a draw. So the correct thing is to reposition, for black to reposition its king in front of the pawn first. Once black is in front of the pawn, black can force white to I mean, obviously, if white doesn't have the opposition, black is going to lose easily. I mean, white is going to lose easily. But if white plays correctly and white tries to maintain the opposition, white is still going to lose, because black is going to utilize the tempo of pushing the pawn to the 6th rank, and then white is going to lose the opposition and black is going to win. So that's the key to remember about this particular setup. I want to show you just one other detail that you should remember, that if black plays incorrectly by pushing the g3 check, it is important for white to move into the corner and not into g1. If white moves into g1, then once again black can advance the pawn. Black can advance the pawn without check, and now white is squeezed out of the winning square, and that's a win for black. So again, so it's important for white to exploit this error on black's part and play correctly from that point on, and achieve a draw.